Welcome to another episode of Not Clickbait, Not Clickbait. I have hacked into his account at the worst time of all time. This is clickbait. I'm unhacking out of his account now. Not clickbait! Not clickbait! Not clickbait! This is not clickbait! Welcome to another episode of No Clickbait! No clickbait! I think it's no clickbait! There's no clickbait! And you thought there's gonna be clickbait! But there's no clickbait.
Today we're going to take a look at the second part.
Oh, I've been bitten everywhere by a mosquito.
Do you want this? I haven't drank any of it yet.
Don't drink some. Drink it.
Okay, nice. Just making sure.
No, I don't want to drink it.
Swish.
Of our new two-part series called Mario and the Goombas Become Friends. In the first video, Mario was forced to leave all the Koopas and Goombas he met healthy and alive, because in the previous video, hurting an opponent meant hurting oneself. But today things are even more complicated for poor Plumber, because pure pacifism isn't enough today. Mario's only chance to survive today's video is to actually become active and to help all the little poor Goombas and Koopas, because only if Mario saves them, he will be able to save himself. So are you ready? Let's do this. Mario's day starts in front of a Koopa. Usually, Mario defeats every Goomba and Koopa he sees as soon as possible. But this isn't necessary here, since this Koopa actually decides to defeat himself. He walks straight into the lava and rewards Mario with a key while doing so. How awesome! But it gets even better. Next, Mario meets a couple of Goombas, but there are POW blocks near them, which makes defeating them really easy. It looks like Bowser built this castle in a way that it is really easy to defeat all the enemies here. That is, if the enemies don't straight up walk into the lava themselves. What an awesome castle for Mario to play in. Sadly, there is a twist, because at the end of this stage, a locked door and a vine await Mario. The locked door clearly leads towards an ouching saw blade above lava, so Mario probably would prefer not to go this way. Sadly, he has no choice, because above the door there is an invisible block which contains a vine. Invisible blocks do not trigger if Mario climbs on top of a vine, but if Mario wants to climb on this vine, he needs to press upwards. But pressing upwards unlocks the evil ouching saw blade above lava gate. So there is no way for Mario to reach the healthy flagpole gate at the top if he collected a key previously. The only way not to have a key in this stage is by preventing any enemies from dying, since all enemies in this stage contain a key. Clever Bowser. Clever and really evil. So back to the start. This time Mario has to save all the enemies. The Koopa is really easy to save. All that Mario needs to do here is to throw him into a small prison where he isn't able to commit lava suicide. The Goombas are a little bit harder to save. Here Mario needs to use the POW block in order to block the Goompa's path, so that the Goomba decides not to walk into the hot liquid anymore, since the POW block is a really strong argument against it. Then Mario needs to avoid stomping onto enemies by accident, and he needs to save a couple of Koopas again before he's finally able to reach the exit door alive and keyless. Now he's able to climb on top of the vine and to reach the saving exit door. Hooray! Okay, so let's talk about this door mechanism for a moment. When building a stage where Mario isn't allowed to collect the key, it is a really good idea to put a vine into the question block and to have a reset door near, since a lot of Marios that play such a stage might have no idea how this mechanism works and might trigger the invisible block by accident, even if they didn't collect the key. But there is a problem with such a design. It can easily be cheesed. If Mario is on the very left side of the vine, he's able to start to climb onto it even if he has a key. That's completely unacceptable, so I tried to de-cheese this contraption, and as it turned out, that was quite a challenge. The first thing I tried was to have a one-way door there and to have a shell trigger the vine. This shell is set up in a way that it only loads in once Mario is exactly on the question block that contains the vine. This should mean that the vine only appears once Mario is inside the one-way door, and therefore he's no longer able to grab the vine without activating the door. Sadly, this doesn't work, since Mario is still able to walk out of the one-way door after triggering the shell, and then he's able to cheese it in the same way he did before. The next thing I tried was to have Mario fall into the spot from above, so that it simply isn't possible to grab the vine from the far left. This works once Mario is on top of the question block. Sadly, it doesn't work if Mario lands close to the exit door, because then our cheesing plumber is able to grab the vine from the exit door spot while he has a key, which is again completely unacceptable. Luckily, a simple conveyor belt that leads towards the reset gate solves this problem, because the conveyor belt always pushes Mario behind the one-way gate after landing, which makes grabbing the vine with a key finally impossible. So if someone of you wonderful ladies and gentlemen watching this plan to build a stage where collecting keys is lethal, I'd recommend to go with this design, since it is resettable and uncheesable, or at least I'm about 90% sure that it is uncheesable. Next, Mario finds himself below a bullet blaster on tracks and below a Koopa. This bullet blaster pushes the Koopa slowly towards the wall and threatens to crush it. Oh my god, can you see the panic in the Koopa's face? Mario needs to do something about this. Or he doesn't, and continues forward. The end of the stage is blocked by a small contraption which our plumber can't trigger. Only the Koopa from before is able to trigger this. So as it turns out, Mario might really needs to do something about this. Luckily, Mario brought his awesome, stylish and favorite headgear, the Shellmat. This awesome head device allows Mario to bump the Koopa up and into safety. If our plumber manages to bump the Koopa at the right times, the Koopa opens up the exit path for Mario. Mario is now able to proceed while the Goomba finds himself in the middle of a mushroom field and finally in safety. How touching. Okay, so check this out. Here Mario finds himself in the middle of a ghost house. There aren't many threats to his health, yet there is still a lot of stuff going on. In the first room, a helpful shell defeats a Goomba at the top. Then another helpful shell defeats another Goomba. But this time the Goomba is at the bottom. In the next room there is a Goomba imprisoned in a horrific prison at the top. But not only this, there is also an ice block on tracks which crushes the poor imprisoned Goomba after a while. And finally another Goomba gets crushed, and then there is a small contraption and the exit door. Sadly for Mario, walking through this contraption transforms the floor into, you guessed it, shiny yet deadly coins and drops Mario into his doom. The only chance Mario has to deactivate this contraption is by saving all the 4 Goombas that got defeated before. Goomba 1 can easily be saved by hitting the dangerous shell at the right time. Awesome. Saving Goomba 2 is easy as well. All that Mario needs to do here is to jump onto the shell at the right time. Sadly, there is a dangerous firebar blade which tries to prevent our plumber from doing so. But ultimately, he manages to save the walking brown mushroom. If Mario wants to save the 3rd Goomba, he needs to platform fast towards the top. Our Italian hero has to drop the blue platform down before the dangerous ice block crushes the brave Goomba. This releases the Goomba from his prison at the top and imprisons him in a prison at the bottom. What a lucky Goomba he is. The final Goomba can be saved with a well-timed jump, so if everything worked out as planned, the contraption that destroyed the floor before should not activate now, since Mario did as he was told and saved all the Goombas. Hooray! This time Mario is able to reach the exit door. Okay, so how did all of this work? Well, it's actually surprisingly simple. It works because of an incredibly cool trick. Recently I was browsing through some comments and I stumbled over this comment by Warspy-King. He mentioned that items on tracks aren't the only way to keep something globally loaded, since firebars and items on top of firebars stay loaded globally as well. I was like, no way. Why would they code the game like, yep, that's exactly what happens. Everything that's on top of a fire bar stays loaded in the ELB, and fire bars do not unload as well. Shout out and thanks to Warspiking for telling me about this trick. So the stage from before makes heavy use of this trick. The idea here is that the Goombas end on top of a fire bar if Mario saves them. If they are on top of a fire bar, they enter global ground and stay loaded in the entity limit B. So if Mario saves all 4 Goombas, then there are 4 Goombas stored that would not be there otherwise. At the end of the stage, we load in a bunch of Goombas on tracks and use hidden forms to donut overflow the ELB, so that there are exactly 96 items loaded in. If Mario saved all 4 Goombas, the Goombas are still loaded, since they're on top of fire bars, and because of this the ELB is at exactly 100 if Mario saved all the Goombas, which means that the P-switch isn't allowed to spawn. Awesome, isn't it? Anyway, that's it for today and for Save the Enemies contraption in Super Mario Maker. I hope you enjoyed this little video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up, and maybe you feel like Mario and the Goombas became especially friends today and want to hit the subscribe button as well. I hope that you have a wonderful day and to see you soon. Goodbye! In our last video, we took a closer look at how the entity limit during Mario Maker's play mode actually works and how it can be manipulated to create crazy contraptions. But that was only the first half of the story, because there is not only a separate entity limit when playing Mario Maker for enemies, but there is also one for all the delicious goodies that is handled separate from the normal one. This enemy limit can actually be manipulated the same way the normal one can be manipulated, and both can be combined to create really strange Mario Maker contraptions. In this video, we are going to take a closer look at the entity limit C, at what it covers and how to manipulate it, and in the end we will be able to create relational operators in Super Mario Maker, custom key systems that can be tested, and levels where the whole floor disappears as soon as Mario collects a star. Just in case you haven't seen the previous video about the entity limit, you might want to check this out first, because otherwise a lot of the stuff we're about to discuss might not make much sense. The link is in the description. Okay, so are you ready? Let's do this! Okay, so first things first, what is the third entity limit, the entity limit C?
Oh, food!
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm gonna get you in trouble over there. Actually, legitimately reported for you.
That's fine. Can I sit with you?
I probably, well, no, stay.
Nice.
Well, the entity limit C, or ELC, is the place where goodies like Yum Yum mushrooms and shiny stars are stored. Here, for example, we fill the normal runtime limit, the ELB, by loading munchers on tracks in. Since the ELB is full, the munchers in the question blocks can't spawn. Business as usual. Where things become interesting is if Mario hits the other question blocks, because those actually spawn mushrooms, even though the ELB is filled. This simple fact confirms that mushrooms aren't handled by the ELB, but by a third different entity limit, the ELC. The really interesting thing is that both of these limits exist separate from each other. Here we fill the ELB and the ELC, both, so that they contain exactly 99 items. Now exactly one muncher is able to spawn and exactly one mushroom. That's really interesting, because it allows us to manipulate both limits at the same time. But what items are actually handled by the ELC? Well, not many, which is pretty cool actually. Only mushrooms, 1-ups, stars, fire flowers and theme-specific power-ups are handled by this limit. These items are pretty interesting for a lot of different reasons. For example, they allow Mario to run away from them for a really far distance before they despawn. 1-ups only despawn after 78 blocks, and so do the other items handled by the ELC. Something to keep in mind when using this is that most other items despawn way earlier. So for example, if we enclose stars by using a one-way door, then the door disappears long before the stars are unloaded. And because of this, the stars start to jump away to the left here, and they unload way earlier. The fact that these items only despawn after a long range is quite useful, because it allows us to build a lot of interesting contraptions without having to load stuff onto track memory. Okay, so what happens if the ELC is full? Well, basically the same that happens when the ELB is full. Pipes and bullet blasters can't spawn any ELC items any longer, and question blocks can't release goodies. Just using this stuff allows us to build a lot of really interesting stages. Here, for example, we fill the ELC with nice and helpful stars. Now Mario needs to climb this wonderful star tower, but he needs to be careful not to eat any of the nice and shiny inhabitants of this place, because as we all know, eating stars in a star tower transforms the floor into shiny yet deadly coins and forces Mario to fall to his doom. So if our plumber wants to survive here, what he probably wants, he has to be really careful to leave the delicious stars alone and to safely platform towards the top of the tower before everything collapses. The reason why this works is actually surprisingly simple. All we do here is we load 100 stars into the ELC. Because of this, the blasters aren't able to spit out the mushrooms they're holding. If a star is collected, however, the blasters suddenly are able to spit out the mushroom, which in consequence destroys the floor. So the ELC basically works the same way as the normal play mode enemy limit, but there is actually one manipulation technique we can't do with the ELC. There is no easy way to overflow it. The normal limit can easily be overflowed locally by donut overflowing it. Sadly, there is no such easy trick possible for the ELC, or at least I wasn't able to find one. Because of this, setting up levels around the ELC is a little bit tedious, since we need to always have complete control over the amount of entities loaded in and can't simply overflow it whenever we want to test for something. But the ELC actually has one huge benefit over the ELB, since it is extremely easy to permanently test for it, even if the room is resetted. More on this in a second. But first, let's take a quick look at a stage that combines a couple of ELC and ELB trickeries, and then let's take a look at how this stage could be made even better because of the ELC's great output testing tricks. Here, Mario finds himself in a mini roguelike stage. In front of him are a couple of question blocks. One of those question blocks contains a delicious mushroom, which allows Mario to double his size when eaten. Then, the stage layout is randomized. Either the path towards the top opens up or the path towards the right, but never both. It looks like the path towards the right is open this time. Because of this, Mario suddenly finds himself in the middle of a dangerous minigame. Here, evil Magic Koopas shoot PlayStation button missiles towards him, while there are bouncers at the bottom which bounce poor Mario around. After a while, the shellmat timer at the top expires and Mario is able to proceed. To his right is a pipe that leads to a small minigame challenge. Here, 20 Goombas on tracks cycle towards Mario. At first glance, this room may appear like a really evil place. But it's actually not. Actually, it's a really neat little minigame which Bowser built for Mario. Because if Mario manages to survive here and to kill 10 or more Goombas, then he's rewarded with a powerful Fire Flower power-up. If Mario kills less than 10 Goombas, however, no reward is given to him. Looks like Bowser got really creative here. Once Mario leaves this minigame again, the pipe that led to this minigame becomes closed. Now the only way further into the stage requires Mario to climb on top of vines while ouching saw blades try to hurt our brave plumber. And then the goal axe suddenly appears. That was it already? Oh, but wait, as it turns out there is a ridiculously complicated AND gate at the top, which only activates if Mario collected a total of 2 1-up mushrooms in this stage, so our plumber probably missed something somewhere. Better go back and do a little bit more exploring. Yeah, of course, there is a 1-up mushroom hidden at the top of the level, which Mario missed before. Now that he managed to actually collect this 1-up, the ridiculously complicated AND gate should actually trigger. And so it does, which finally opens up the path to the precious goal axe. Hooray! Okay, so how did all of this work? Well, it's actually surprisingly simple. With the exception of the end gate, that's absurdly overcomplicated. Okay, so first there is a simple clown car randomizer hidden out of sight. Each one of the 2 minigames then lead to a 1-up mushroom on tracks. If a mushroom on tracks is eaten, then the game remembers this even if Mario enters the subworld. Because of this, we are able to store the information how many shrooms were eaten over the course of the stage. In this area, there are 97 mushrooms on tracks hidden out of sight, and the 2 mushrooms to the left, but one of them is eaten. This loads 98 entities into the ELC, which are on track memory. Next, the last mushroom on tracks is loaded in, so we are at 99. The final area features a resettable AND gate that requires both bullet blasters to shoot. Since the current ELC count is at 99, only one of them is actually able to shoot, and the exit is blocked. Okay, so the minigame Underground. Here we load 76 Goombas onto track memory out of sight. Then there are 20 normal Goombas, which Mario has to fight against. In the last part we do not overflow the ELB for 12, and then there is a bullet blaster. This brings the ELB up to 109, if no Goomba is killed. So in order for one item to spawn again, 10 Goombas need to leave the game, because otherwise there is no open spawn spot, which means that this contraption acts like a relational operator that tests whether the amount of Goombas defeated here is equal or greater than 10. It's a bit annoying to set up, but I'm so happy that this finally works. The reason why the minigame closes after Mario entered it once is because of simple spawn blocking. Okay, so the overcomplicated AND gate. Most of the stuff going on here should actually be pretty self-explanatory. Basically, the two mushrooms lead to a chain reaction that in the end opens up the path for the shell at the top here and allows it to defeat the Bob-omb. All of the question blocks here contain vines. Because of this, the gate is resettable by walking through a door. I actually haven't found a way to build a resettable AND gate before, and the reason why this works is because of a neat little Mario Maker trick I just recently figured out. If a muncher lives on top of a question block and this block is triggered by a shell, then the muncher bumps up a little bit but not high enough to actually land on top of the next tile. If there is a spring on top of the muncher, however, the muncher suddenly becomes extremely athletic and is actually able to jump upwards. That's a small trick that is extremely useful when trying to build stuff that stays resettable, because this allows vine blocks to push munchers upwards. Still, building such gates is extremely heavy on resources and becomes extremely challenging if we want not only to test if 2 out of 3 mushrooms were collected, like we did here, but let's say if 4 mushrooms out of 7 were eaten. Luckily, there is one last thing possible because of the ELC. There is one ELC item that we haven't talked about, and this is thunder! Whoops, wrong sound effect. Moment. Right sound effect. Yoshi Eggs, because Yoshi Eggs aren't able to release any of their content if the DLC is at or over 100. If there are several Yoshi Eggs on screen, then they open up in the order they were loaded in. The first 2 always spawn Yoshis, the next ones progressive power-ups, but only if the ELC is not full. If it is actually full, then they can't spawn their power-ups. Here, for example, we have a super simple setup. We load 93 mushrooms on track memory out of sight, then there are 7 mushrooms in front of Mario, and then there is a small room with several Yoshi Eggs. If Mario does not collect any mushrooms, nothing happens here, and Mario needs to go back to the start. If Mario collects 1, 2 or 3 mushrooms, nothing happens as well. But if Mario collects 4 or more mushrooms, one of the Yoshi Eggs is finally able to spawn, which grants Mario a key in return. So this super simple setup actually allows us to build crazy relational operators for mushrooms. We can test if Mario ate at least 3 mushrooms, or less than 5, and with a little bit of tinkering, probably also whether Mario collected exactly 5, or between 3 and 7, but not more or less. This allows us to basically build a custom red key system that can actually be tested for, and it's super easy to set up because of ELC blocked Yoshi Eggs. We're definitely going to have a ton of fun with stuff like this in the future. Okay, so is there anything else to mention? Well, not really, but here's a random piece of Mario Maker trivia. Bullet blasters that contain 1-up mushrooms only spit 3 mushrooms out and become deactivated afterwards. And that's it for the ELC. I hope you enjoyed this little video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up, and maybe you feel especially like a Yoshi Egg, unable to spawn a fire flower today, and want to hit the subscribe button as well. I hope that you have a wonderful day and to see you soon. Goodbye!
We're waiting until we get someone really special on the randomizing. Like, you know, we found him. Is it just me, or does he look...
In our last video, we took a closer look at how the entity limit during Mario Maker's play mode actually works and how it can be manipulated to create crazy contraptions. But that was only the first half of the story, because there is not only a separate entity limit when playing Mario Maker for enemies, but there is also one for all the delicious goodies that is
Okay.
So, I love Undertale's combat system. I love how surprising the different encounters are. I love how much humor and charm is packed into it. I love that there are multiple solutions for every fight. I love the small minigames that break the usually so stale turn-based combat. I love the jokes. It's just so wonderfully done. So recently I started to wonder how many of the features of Undertale's combat system we can recreate in Super Mario Maker. For those not familiar with Undertale, combat takes place in turns. We either attack or use an act command. The act command allows us to solve encounters peacefully and acts more like a small puzzle. We attack by a small timing minigame, enemies attack us in a small shoot them up minigame where we have to dodge their attacks for a while. The game has a different ending depending on whether you spare all enemies, spare some or kill them all. And as it turns out, each and every one of those aspects can be recreated in Super Mario Maker. So today we're going to take a look at a Mario Maker Undertale fighting system that features a timing minigame that deals more damage the better we time it, an enemy with 4 different attacks from which it chooses one at random, a custom dialogue system that allows us to resolve the fight peacefully, a hint system where our enemy gives us different hints onto what dialogue choices to use, and different endings depending on whether we solve the fight peacefully or with force. So you ready? Let's do this. Okay, so Mario just stumbled into a cliff and after a long fall, he found himself in this very strange stage. There is nothing special here until Mario walks through this door, because this door starts a fight against a horrible dry bone. This is the attack selection screen. Our plumber has 2 choices here. He can either choose the attack command to his left or the act command to his right. Let's first kill this dry bone and let's spare him afterwards. Mario attacks first. The attack happens as soon as we press A here. This bullet blaster cycles from the left to the right and represents Mario's damage meter. The further to the left the damage meter stops, the more damage our plumber will deal. As soon as Mario hits A, the bullet blaster stops and our brave plumber is allowed to proceed. Here the blaster stopped in the middle, which means that Mario will deal 2 damage. The next room is the actual attack room, where the damage is dealt and we're able to see the current health of our skeleton Koopa. The health is represented by those brick blocks at the top. The damage is dealt by shells. If a shell hits the power block, the dead Koopa dies again and Mario won the fight. Since Mario got a medium result in the attack minigame previously, he deals 2 damage here. Then our plumber has to go through this door, which teleports him into the dry bone attack randomizer. There are 4 different exit pipes at the top. Each one of them teleports Mario to a different dry bone attack, but only one of them is accessible. Which one is decided by random, and each attack has a chance of 25% to be chosen. If Mario goes through this pipe, his soul exits it on the other side. So here Mario, or better Mario's soul, or his heart, I mean, technically the heart is still Mario, or the heart-shaped plumber is Mario's soul? Is it a plumber-shaped heart? It's complicated. Anyway, here Mario's soul, represented by Mario, has to dodge all the evil attacks the dry bone throws towards him, while he waits for a hidden timer to expire. There are 4 different minigames. Mario either has to dodge horrific fireballs thrown by dangerous piranha plants, or he has to dodge ouching spikes shot by bullying winged spinies, or he has to escape evil cannonballs that fly towards him in endless waves, or he has to dodge crushing ice blocks that randomly drop from the ceiling. All the attack minigames last for about 8 seconds and are really dangerous for poor plumber, but as long as he stays determined, he should be able to survive until the exit door opens up and takes our plumber back to the attack selection screen. So let's attack again. This time Mario manages to stop the bullet blaster at the far left, which represents a critical hit and 3 damage. Then the 3 damage are dealt to a poor dead dry bone. Next, the attack selection screen appears once again, where another minigame is selected. Then our plumber shaped soul has to survive the minigame once again until we are back at the attack selection screen. So let's skip forward a little bit. Here Mario lands the last necessary hits on the dry bone. As soon as the power block is destroyed, the dead Koopa finally dies. The exit door becomes locked, but another exit pipe opens up. This pipe takes Mario to the evil ending where he walks towards his beloved X-Pole, while all the enemies below him die. Hooray! But what if Mario doesn't feel especially murderous today? What if Mario wants to save the dead Koopa's life today? What if he tries to resolve the conflict peacefully? Well, let's head back to the start and check it out. So this time Mario decides to choose the act command instead of the fight one. This leads our plumber to this dialogue menu. Mario now has to choose one out of 3 dialogue options. Since Miiverse comments died a couple of months ago, the dialogue choices are A. Power block, B. P-switch, and C. spring. But how is Mario supposed to know which dialogue choice is the right one in order to end this conflict peacefully? Well, if we go back in time a little bit, we can see that the dry bone actually gave Mario a small hint onto which option to choose before. He clearly showed Mario that he feels especially P-switch this turn. So the first time the right dialogue choice is P-switch. Once the choice was made, all the other choices lock up by some evil dialogue tree options magic and Mario is able to proceed. This path leads him to the attack randomizer, to attack minigame and back to the attack selection screen. Here we can see that the dry bone gives Mario a new hint. This turn he feels especially power block. So Mario chooses the power block dialogue option, leaves the area again, survives the minigame and ends up once again in this room. This time the dry bone wants the spring dialogue option. If Mario enters the spring option, the fight is finally resolved peacefully and Mario is able to spare the Koopa skeleton. The dry bone seems pretty happy about this. Don't get confused since he isn't celebrating. That's just because he has no body to celebrate with. Anyway, now Mario sees the true ending, where he eats all the yum yum mushrooms and the enemies at the top survive. Hooray! Okay, so how did all of this work? Well, some parts of it are actually surprisingly simple, others aren't. So let's start with the attack minigame. This one is really simple. At the top is an anti-jump womp hidden, which triggers a power block as soon as Mario jumps. The womp is on tracks, so that Mario isn't able to trigger it before the shell med cannon fires. The shell med cannon fires and picks up the bullet blaster. Once Mario jumps, the anti-jump womp immediately triggers the power block. The shellmet leaves the game and the bullet blaster drops down where he just was. Now only one of the 3 doors is accessible. The door to the left deals 3 damage, the middle one 2 and the one to the right deals 1. These doors lead directly to the damage room. Now Mario activates 1, 2 or 3 shells depending from where he entered. Super simple, isn't it? Sadly I wasn't able to build a system that deals damage immediately as soon as Mario enters the room without this boring waiting sequence. I really tried and I still believe it should be possible, but the timing of the shells so that they don't run into each other is a nightmare. If the power block is triggered, this muncher dies and the bullet blaster closes the one exit while opening up the other. The minigame randomization is super simple as well. Basically we have 3 randomizers wired together. One blooper randomizer, which either opens up the path to the right or the one to the left, and then 2 clown car randomizers that use the fact that ouched clown cars randomly drive towards the right or towards the left in order to grow the vines. The minigames should be pretty self-explanatory as well. That's what the timer at the top looks like. Okay, so the little bit more sophisticated stuff, the hint system and the dialogue menu. So the hint system first. Every time the dry bone is loaded, he gives a different hint. The first time P-switch, then power block, then spring, and from then on he's out of hints and gives no hint at all. This works by pretty complicated spawn blocking chains. I won't go over everything in detail, but what roughly happens is the following. There are tons of bob arms which are spawn blocked because a block lives at the place where they live. If a bob arm goes boom, he destroys the spawn blocking blocks, which means the next bob arm is able to spawn the next time the room is loaded. This chain, for example, is set up in a way that only the 4th time the room is loaded, this spring and this shell are able to load. They trigger this invisible block, which means that no items drop down from the 4th time onwards. The P-switch at the bottom becomes spawn blocked by an invisible block after its first load, and the other items are set up in a way to drop down the 2nd and 3rd time the room is loaded. Okay, the custom dialogue system. This system is set up in a way that the 3 correct inputs need to be done in the right order. If any input is done at the wrong time, the system deactivates and the peaceful solution becomes locked. First, why do the 3 inputs deactivate after 1 input? That's super simple. We use an anti-jump womp at the top once again to test Mario's vertical position and to trigger a power block once Mario hit a question block. This destroys this muncher and moves this chain jump pole on top of the conveyor belts below the input spot, which locks all inputs. So how do we test for correct inputs and permanently lock the contraption if a wrong input is entered? There is a shell at the top left that travels to the right and activates a P-switch if the left input is triggered last and the 2 other inputs were done correctly before. There is a spawn blocked big bob-omb that only is able to spawn if the middle bob-omb was triggered first. This big bob-omb destroys this block, which drops down this muncher and completes the bridge for the shell. The small bob-omb doesn't boom effective enough to destroy this block. Because of this we can be sure that the inputs need to be done in the right order. The rest of the contraption are stupidly overcomplicated ways to spawn block everything in such a way that each input deactivates the machine if it is done at the wrong time. If anyone wants to take a closer look at how all of this works, I actually uploaded the stage. The link is in the description. So here we have it, an almost feature complete recreation of Undertale's brilliant combat system in Super Mario Maker. I had a ton of fun building this silly little thing, and I hope all of you wonderful ladies and gentlemen enjoyed watching this.
Well, they were paying me. There is one. I might one more picked up and good. Yeah. No, she never, I never did get it, but she was always She just like, but what I said, yes. I didn't call her anything. I don't know, the conversation was kind of going, and I said, well, we were all sitting around the table. There were some of her friends and a bunch of the GIs, and they were across the street from the GI here. So they had a lot of GIs. And I had flirted with her. She said, she really didn't sweat. But I forget all what the conversation was going, but it was kind of getting a little risque. Yeah, and she said something, and she just kind of reached out.
What is the highest possible high score in Super Mario Maker? That's a question that has been haunting me for over a year now. I tried so many different things in order to get this silly number as high as possible, but no matter what I tried, nothing felt like the definitive answer. But that was until recently, because recently there was a breakthrough in the field of Mario Maker high score research that allows us to finally push the score and Mario Maker to its absolute limits. In this video we are going to take a look back at my journey to obtain the highest high score possible, and in the end we will push this infamous number in the top right corner higher than ever before. So you ready? Let's do this! So the first thing I ever tried was just to find out how high the score can potentially get in standard ways. The score counter is able to count up to 1 billion points minus 1, and I wanted to find out how high we can get before we even try some crazy shenanigans. The answer is not very high, only 280,000 points. That's definitely not the most efficient way to get a high score. We need a contraption where Mario is rewarded with stuff that grants him these valuable points during all 500 in-game seconds. But how to build the most efficient setup? Collecting coins rewards Mario with 100 points. Picking up a star, a mushroom or a fire flower grants him 1000 points. Touching a checkpoint flag rewards our plumber with 2000 points. And then there are points for defeating enemies. The first enemy Mario defeats grants him 200 points, the next one 400, the one after that even more, and so on, until Mario defeats the 7th enemy in a row, which grants him 8000 points. So the answer should be obvious, right? We just need to find a setup where Mario permanently jumps on enemies and builds up points until the timer runs out. Well, no, because we have a huge problem. Every enemy after the 7th doesn't grant our plumber points, but 1-ups. 1-ups don't count towards the score. This also makes cloning surprisingly useless when trying to get the best possible score. So the next thing I tried was to build a setup where Mario permanently jumps onto 7 enemies, gets the points and then lands only to jump onto 7 enemies once again. The easiest setup for this is this one. These cannons shoot towards Mario. He jumps on them, lands and then jumps on them again. This design grants Mario about 46,000 points per 10 in-game seconds, which means it is possible to reach a score of about 2.5 million points before the timer runs out. That's still a really low score. So I went back to the planning table and tried to come up with a different design. Mushrooms are worth 1000 points, so the next logical thing was to try to find a setup where Mario eats as many delicious mushrooms as possible during 500 seconds. The first thing I tried was this design. Here 70 bullet blasters constantly throw delicious mushrooms towards Mario. Looks like it's Mario's lucky day. The design grants Mario about 200,000 points per 10 in-game seconds and allows us to reach an approximate score of almost 10 million points. That's still really low, but here only 70 bullet blasters feed Mario mushrooms. So the next step was to find a way to feed Mario more mushrooms. Luckily, pipe stacking allows us to do exactly this. Each one of these pipes are actually 5 stacked pipes, which constantly spawn yum mushrooms. This design produces about 320,000 points per second, which allows for an approximated score of 16 million points. That's better, but still definitely not the most efficient way to get points. So far, we tried to have Mario defeat as many enemies as possible and to have Mario eat as many delicious mushrooms as possible. Both designs didn't allow for crazy high scores. So what is the next step? To combine both techniques. Here Mario eats the same amount of mushrooms as before, while he's still jumping on enemies. This effectively adds both previous designs together. Hooray! So here we produce about 390,000 points per 10 in-game seconds and are able to reach an approximated score of over 19 million points before the timer ends. I actually built this design a couple of months ago. For a really long time, that was the highest I was able to get the score up. And to be honest, that's still a horrible score. We aren't even close to the 100 million mark. But significantly improving this design turned out to be really tricky. We're basically getting all the possible points that can be earned by jumping on enemies and by collecting goodies. So I tried to find a better solution. But days passed and turned into weeks, which turned into months without any new insights. Seasons came and seasons went, and it appeared that this is the best the field of Mario Maker high score research was able to do. But then there was a breakthrough in science. If we are already collecting all the points per second we can possibly collect in a single Mario Maker room, maybe we need more than one room. Maybe we need to use some loading tricks. So whenever Mario walks through a door, the room is reloaded. But if Mario keeps walking through the same door, a single room can be loaded several times per in-game second. All that we need to do is to build a contraption where 7 enemies are defeated whenever Mario walks through a door. So whenever we enter this room, Mario is granted 16,400 points. The funky thing is we can enter and leave this room several times per in-game second, which allows this design to obtain about 600,000 points per 10 in-game seconds and over 31 million points before the timer ends. That's way better than all previous designs. But this is not the end of this story. Mario Maker runs at 60 frames per second. Whenever Mario leaves a door and enters a new one, about 20 frames pass. Turns out 20 frames are enough to not only trigger one power block, but 2, and to defeat not only one set of 7 enemies, but to defeat 2 sets of enemies if we stack them on top of each other. Bowser's grant Mario always 8,000 points when defeated, so we can optimize the design even more by swapping 3 Munchers with Bowser's. Suddenly we are able to grind over 2 million points per 10 in-game seconds, which means that we're finally able to reach a score of about 107 million points. We've finally made it past the 100 million mark. Now we're talking. But this still isn't the end of this story, because this design can still be improved significantly. Re-entering rooms through doors is really slow, as we've seen so far, but there is actually an even slower way to re-enter rooms. pipes. When we re-enter doors over and over again, it takes about 3 door re-entries until 1 in-game second passes. But when we do the same thing with pipes, it takes about 12 room re-entries for a single in-game second to pass. There are so few frames in between every reload that there is barely enough time to trigger pow block and to defeat 1 set of 7 enemies. We're now able to defeat 12 sets of enemies per second. Now we are really talking. All that's left to do now is to refine this design so that it grants us the maximum amount of points per room load. First, it's finally time for Psychro's fantastic black hole glitch to shine, because now we use 2 sets of 8 cloned Bowsers instead of normal enemies. This means every room reload grants us about 56,000 points, just because of the 7 Bowsers. But there is one more optimization trick possible. Remember that I mentioned that checkpoints grant 2,000 points when activated? Well, if a checkpoint is triggered when Mario leaves a pipe, this checkpoint becomes active even if it was activated before. That's actually a topic for a video all on its own, but in short we're able to add 2,000 points per pipe leaving to the score, because we place checkpoints directly on top of each pipe. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment. This is the best high score grinding contraption I was able to come up with. Are you ready to throw the contraption on and to see how many points it's able to generate? Well, sadly there is a big problem. During our crazy journey to push the high score to its absolute limits, we sadly pushed Mario Maker to its limits too. We're entering and leaving the pipe about 12 times per in-game second now, which means that doing this until the timer runs out takes forever. A little bit over 6 hours. I'm not even kidding. It takes over 6 hours for the 500 in-game seconds to pass. So I'm really crazy, but I'm sadly not crazy enough to sit there for over 6 hours doing nothing but to hold my thumb down while Mario enters the same pipe over and over again. So I sadly can't show you what it looks like when the timer runs out while I play the stage. But luckily I'm able to show you what it looks like if our new best friends play the level. Watch now, the highest high score ever achieved in Mario Maker. Achieved not by a human, but by a rubber band and a piece of glue strip. 348 and 122,000 points. Yes, the highest high score ever achieved in Mario Maker was done by a rubber band and a piece of glue strip. So the next time someone asks you who the absolute very best Mario Maker player is, you now know the answer. We've come a long way since our first highest high score design. This design is able to grind over 7 million points per 10 in-game seconds. By the way, in case you wonder, we reloaded the room 6,002 times, which means that exactly 48,016 Bowsers were defeated just in the single level. What a time to be alive. Anyway, so this is the highest high score I was able to achieve in Mario Maker. I hope you enjoyed this little video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up. And maybe you feel especially confused today since a rubber band and a piece of glue strip just turned out to be better at Mario Maker than we all together, and want to hit the subscribe button as well. I hope that you have a wonderful day and to see you soon. Goodbye.
It's going to be colder than well digger's ass this year. Oh, we got some rain. It wasn't a damn hurricane. If you want a hurricane, come to Florida and I'll show you a hurricane. Still with the link to water, dude. What do you want? Come to Florida and I'll show you a hurricane. Come to Florida and I'll show you a hurricane. Oh,
The black hole glitch is a beautiful glitch. Not only does it allow us to stack tons of solid items on top of each other or to clone as many Bowsers as we wish for, but it also allows us to completely break the enemy limit of 100 enemies in Super Mario Maker. In this video we are first going to take a look on how to circumvent the enemy limit, and afterwards we will push Mario Maker to its absolute limits and write video gaming history. Mario will jump onto 2064 Goombas at once. So you ready? Let's do this! Okay, so first the glitch. The new setup for the black hole glitch is incredibly simple. All we need to do is to place a bullet blaster on the top half of the screen and extend it to the bottom half. Then put a thwomp or a big Bowser on top of it, place a big entity of the enemy we want to clone and put any small item on top of the big one. And we're done. Now the fun part. Whenever we place a coin, delete the bullet blaster and undo twice. We duplicate the big enemy. That's the whole trick. But there are a couple of things to keep in mind when using this trick. First, if we build a stage and plan to use way over 100 enemies, we need to plan ahead, because once we started cloning and have more than 100 enemies, we can't add new ones. The best way to handle this is just to put all the enemies we potentially want to use close to the cloning setup, so that we're still able to clone them once we're above the enemy limit. Second, the glitch is completely unpredictable. Sometimes we clone the Bowser instead of the object we want to clone. Sometimes we clone the Bob Omb, and once I actually cloned the Bullet Blasters. I have no idea why and how this happened. I tried for over an hour to recreate the Bullet Blaster cloning, but I have no idea what triggered it. But that's not the main problem. The main problem is that the glitch sometimes clones all entities of the enemy we want to clone. So for example, here I want to clone big cannons, but instead of only cloning this cannon, I ended up cloning all cannons I placed so far. We need to permanently check if we cloned all items by accident, because if we cloned all by accident, the editor later or probably sooner completely crashes. So save often and create backups of your stage in case something goes horribly wrong while cloning. Okay, and the third problem with the glitch is that Nintendo deletes such levels immediately after uploading. So with that being said, let's find out how many Goombas we can clone before Mario Maker gives up. So if we want to maximize the maximum amount of Goombas Mario can jump onto at the same time, there are a couple of things we need to keep in mind. Interestingly, the play mode is more stable than the edit mode. I had dozens and dozens of crashes when setting this up, but all crashes were in the editor mode. The play mode can handle much more Goomba than the editor. Because of this, we clone big Goombas instead of small ones. The big Goombas split into two small Goombas once defeated, which allows us to double the amount of Goombas in the play mode. Next, we need to actually clone all the Goombas. And oh my god, that was tedious. As I mentioned before, sometimes the game clones not only the Goomba we want to clone, but all the Goombas. If this happens, while there are hundreds of Goombas in the editor, the Wii U basically transforms into a potato and we need to pull the plug and start again. So I cloned Goombas for about 7 hours and made it through about 20 game crashes before I finally ended up with this setup. This is the maximum Goomba amount my Wii U is able to handle. If we add only one more Goomba tower, the game softlocks once we try to save. One of these Goomba towers is 12 Goombas high and there are 86 such towers, which means that there are 1032 big Goombas in the game currently. If we now load the game and run at the same speed as the conveyor belts move towards the left, we load all the Goombas in and they end up stacked on top of each other on the left side of the level. Probably pretty crowded there. The game is already pretty laggy, but that's really just the beginning of the lag. The real lag happens once we defeat all these 1032 Goombas and end up with 2064 small Goombas. The game now runs incredibly slow. Since it isn't possible to see how many Goombas there are at this spot at this exact moment, let's quickly take a look at this. If we allow all the Goombas to drop down, then they're in big trouble. Only one Goomba at a time is able to walk away. This makes it possible to actually see how many Goombas there are. We just need some time and patience. A lot of time and patience actually. It takes minutes until all the Goombas walked away. Okay, and now the moment we all waited for. Ladies and gentlemen, let's write video gaming history. Not only is Mario about to defeat more Goombas in a single jump than any video gaming character ever did before, but he will also vaporize the previous record for most 1-ups collected in a single second. He's about to collect over 2000 1-ups at once. What a time to be alive. So Mario is ready. He jumps, he lands, all the Goombas decide to leave the game at once and Mario is rewarded with thousands of 1-ups. Hooray! Shout out to Psychro for finding the amazing black hole glitch, and another shout out to Psychro for finding it once again after it was patched. Thanks for watching this little video, I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up and maybe feel especially like 2064 Goombas at once today and want to hit the subscribe button as well. I hope that you have a wonderful day and to see you soon. Goodbye.
Someone needs to start flushing the toilet.
I have been!
It's so cute.
Hmm?
A little cat.
Don't run for again. Don't run two. Again. Don't hurry. Again. Two point one beats from your first time.
So Mario is ready. He jumps, he lands, all the Goombas decide to leave the game at once and Mario is rewarded with thousands of 1-ups. Hooray!
Yeah, no. And then their meeting was
For about 7 hours and made it through about 20 game crashes before I finally ended up with this setup. This is the maximum Goomba amount my Wii U is able to handle. If we add only one more Goomba tower, the game softlocks once we try to save. One of these Goomba towers is 12 Goombas high and there are 86 such towers, which means that there are 1032 big Goombas in the game currently. If we now load the game and run at the same speed as the conveyor belts move, all the Goombas decide to leave the game at once and Mario is rewarded with thousands of 1-ups. At one
There's this little gambling minigame in Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, and it's called Happy Lucky Lottery. It's cheap to play, requiring only 10 coins for a lottery ticket. Each day you can check the lottery board to see if your ticket wins a prize. More often than not, you don't win anything, but they are nice enough to give you a daily mushroom just for participating. Something that confused me as a kid was how it matches the numbers from right to left. Right here you would think I win at least 4th prize since my number also starts with 1, but I did not win at all since 4th prize means the rightmost number matches. 3rd prize means both numbers on the right match, 2nd prize means all but the leftmost number matches, and 1st prize means all numbers match. The prizes you can win are Life Shroom for 4th, an Ultra Shroom for 3rd, the Lucky Day Badge for 2nd, and if you hit Jackpot, then you're going to get a really good badge called Power Plus. Lucky Day and Power Plus are special cases, as both badges can only be obtained once per save file using this method, with no exceptions. Once you claim 2nd prize, if you win 2nd prize again, you would receive a Zest Special, a one-time use item worth only 25 coins to the most desperate shopkeeper. Likewise, winning 1st prize a 2nd time rewards a Zest Dynamite, worth 40 coins at best. In my opinion, they definitely could have done better than these throwaway Zest items. Still, considering any number from 0000 to 9999 can be drawn, it's pretty unlikely to win grand prize just once. By the look of it, there is a 1 in 10,000 chance of winning, and that would be the case, except that this is built on the lie that Happy Lucky Lottery is truly random. The other day, I was replaying the game casually and couldn't believe it when my ticket was 1 digit off the winning number. The lottery board showed 2323, I had ticket 2324. Remember they match values from right to left? So I didn't just miss 1st prize by 1 number, I didn't even get 4th prize. Before getting into the mess of explaining how this works, the odds of seeing a pick 1 value off of your own number are about 1 in 9,000. We're talking about a 0.011% chance on something that can only be attempted once per day. Thanks, Paper Mario. If you end up losing confidence in your ticket like I just did, you can buy a new one for 100 coins. Not a good idea. It's a scam. Happy Lucky Lottery does not operate off luck, rather it chooses the day you win as soon as you buy a ticket. Each prize has a corresponding memory address, indicating exactly how many days until your number matches the board. So the day ranges are for 4th prize 4 to 10 days, 3rd prize 25 to 35 days, 2nd prize 85 to 115 days, and 1st prize is 335 to 395 days. Going by these addresses and their expected values JDAster64 shared with me, we can look directly at the game's memory to determine how many days it takes to win each individual prize. We are guaranteed to win 4th prize starting day 4 and ending day 10, so long as we check the lottery each day. This also means you're guaranteed to not win the first 3 days after buying a ticket. Once you claim a prize, you will not be able to win that same prize again until you purchase a new ticket. For instance, you might be chosen to win 4th prize 7 days after getting your ticket. Let's say you check it on day 8, so you get no prize. Now it picks another number within that 4 to 10 day range, and pretend it randomly selects 9. 8 days plus 9 days equals 17, so you will lose on days 9 through 16. Eventually you'll end up in 3rd prize territory if 4th prize is missed repeatedly. If you were also selected to win 3rd prize on the same day as a re-rolled 4th prize, the better 3rd prize is prioritized. This also means you will not win grand prize until at least 335 days have passed, almost an entire year minimum of 0 chance at grand prize. Assuming you even want to play the same save file for hundreds of days, what if at some point you decide to buy a new ticket for 100 coins? Sorry, but all of your progress towards grand prize gets revoked, and you have to wait at least another 335 days for a shot at jackpot. That's not just grand prize, by the way. All of the numbers are reset when you pay for this new ticket. Why would you ever spend the money on this? You get handed a free ticket once you hit jackpot, so, Nintendo, what's the point of that option? Admittedly, winning grand prize somewhere between day 335 and 395 after buying a ticket is not a horrible deal. The odds are much better than 1 in 10,000, they are guaranteed, but why even offer new expensive numbers to players if it resets the day counter? And why not at least make it possible for someone to luck out and win a prize on day 1? To quote JD Aster, Happy Lucky Lottery is a total fraud. They clearly don't play by the rules, so maybe we shouldn't either. Is there a way to cheat Happy Lucky Lottery? Well, you can hack the game to determine which day you win, but maybe a more traditional method is worth explaining too. I'm talking about changing the Nintendo GameCube system clock. Whole day during the startup, go to the calendar section and you can adjust it just like this. Then start Paper Mario and check the board. Claim whatever prize you get, save your progress, and try again. Takes a while, but you are guaranteed all 4 prizes within 395 resets. That can also be optimized by skipping the day counter to the beginning of each prize range. So if you only care about getting the lucky day badge, then your best bet is to set the date ahead by 85 days and you'll have it within 30 resets. The problem is when you change the clock back in time. The game can in fact determine you've done this if it's before the last date and time you received a ticket or checked the Happy Lucky Lottery sign, as the host realizes the GameCube system clock has been tampered with. You're given a number of dialogue options to either admit to it or pretend like nothing happened. When you play Innocent, he keeps pressing, like guilt-tripping you with a little story about poor Toadette. I mean, she was crying, she couldn't play the lottery today, it's all your fault, you know it, you're just not owning up to it. Here's what happens if you eventually admit it though. Before that sequence, you can continue to deny changing the clock, and he will consider it a mistake. No matter what you choose though, you owe him 500 coins to help start the lottery back up, so don't switch the clock back. What's more interesting is how the game knows you adjusted the clock backwards. This is best explained with memory addresses that save a value denoting the time the sign was last read and the time the last lottery ticket was received. These 2 memory addresses, like the ones shown earlier, are saved to the current save file. Since it's not really possible to determine if a day advanced naturally, or a player manually advanced the system clock, it can only hold cheaters accountable if time has been reversed by comparing these 2 values with this address, the value tied to the GameCube clock. These are signed 64-bit addresses, so they can hold a lot of numbers. This is the value range. That's over 18.4 quintillion unique values when you combine all positive and negative possibilities, including 0. Keep in mind that's merely the limit these addresses can hold, even when hacked. To understand the values we would expect to see when the GameCube clock is managed manually, we have to consider what happens under typical gameplay conditions. These values tracking time increment by 40,500,000 every second, relative to 1/10 the speed of the GameCube's original microprocessor, which reportedly boasted a clock rate of 405 MHz. Although the time can be updated by the player, a CR2032 battery was included in the GameCube to keep track of the system clock while the console is powered off. The GameCube's clock time can be set as early as 000000 on the 1st of January 2000, while the maximum system clock time can be set as late as 23:59:59 on the 31st of December 2099. It can go higher when it automatically ticks up, but any adjustments to the calendar after it ticks to year 2100 will reset it back to the year 2000. We want to talk about the time frame manageable by the player, which would be exactly 100 years minus 1 second. More precisely, 100 years is 36,525 days when accounting for leap years, which the GameCube does. A few steps further, that's 876,600 hours, 52,596,000 minutes, or 3.15576 billion seconds, and then we subtract the 1 second difference to get 3,155,759,999 seconds. Now we multiply that value by the 40.5 million increments per second to get almost 128 quadrillion. That's the maximum value the address can produce within controllable means, as any time beyond that is impossible to manually adjust without hacking the GameCube calendar. As for the minimum value, the system clock would be set to midnight of New Year's Day 2000, but would already increment for the first few seconds before loading up the game and reaching the lottery board. It takes roughly a minute to load up a save and participate in the lottery, so the minimum value saved at those addresses is expected to be higher than 0. Even still, the margin of error is within 60 seconds, since there are multiple save blocks near the Happy Lucky Lottery. This gives the address values a manageable hexadecimal range from this minimum to this maximum. To reiterate, unless the GameCube automatically increments the time beyond the year 2099, or the value is hacked, the address values indicating when your ticket was received and the time the Happy Lucky Lottery sign was last read will be within that value range. Let's say we first check the lottery board at exactly midnight on the 1st of August 2018. That is 6,787 days since the value was 0, which of course represented midnight on the 1st of January 2000. This would set the save time at the memory address to 23,749,070,400,000,000 when converted from hexadecimal format. That number is interpreted by the game as midnight 1st of August 2018. Bear in mind the value that is tracking the GameCube clock is increasing rapidly by 3.4992 trillion per day. That current system time is compared to the stored time within the saved memory addresses. If the current system time has a smaller value than the saved system time, the game reasonably concludes that the system clock was changed. This is why it's possible to cheat the Happy Lucky Lottery by skipping ahead, but setting the clock backwards is a 500 coin penalty. As we've established, a new winning number gets drawn each day at midnight. To determine whether or not it's time to update the board with a new number, the stored and current system times are likely divided by 3.4992 trillion and rounded down. If the values are the same, no new lottery number would be displayed as demonstrated by the calculation shown right now. If the rounded down quotient of current system time has increased, the game recognizes this as a new day and allows us to see what the new day's winning number is. Thankfully, we don't need to worry about daylight savings time since the GameCube clock does not set that automatically, which makes sense because not everyone does it. However, if you were playing Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, checked the lottery board, saved the game, realized it was just that time for daylight savings to end, actually cared enough to quit and adjust your Nintendo GameCube clock 1 hour back, then reloaded your file, you would owe 500 coins, you cheater. Although you could just wait an hour until the current system time surpasses the last time you checked the lottery board to avoid that penalty. Honestly, I never thought I'd spend this long talking about a sign in a video game, but that's pretty much the extent of Happy Lucky Lottery. A lot of this information was discovered by JDAster64, and he helped answer a lot of my questions. He's done plenty of research across many different Mario games, so shoot him a follow if you're into this sort of content. You can also find links to my social media in the description, and be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.
So my first part-time job was at MGM Studios in Orlando, Florida. They call it Hollywood Studios now, but to me, it's always going to be MGM. Now, I know a lot of you guys have been to Disney, and no matter what park you go to, there's always going to be certain types of things going on behind the scenes that none of you guys are aware of. But there's layers and categories that divide all the Disney employees. You have the people that have worked there for 15 years, and they have their little pen, and they've met their boyfriend or girlfriend there, and they're getting married on property, and it's a whole Disney-themed wedding. Yeah, you got those people there. You got the people that take their job too seriously. You have the costume and the non-costume. You got the non-costume people, they're smiling all the time, they're just a little bit awkward to be around. And then you have the costume people who believe they are those Disney characters. Kids are sitting on a bench somewhere, you know, drinking a soda, and they'll run up and slap the drink out of the kids' hands like, "Kids, quick, come on! I just stole this loaf of bread from the marketplace because I'm poor. And guess what? You're poor too. Sultan's guards are coming. Let's run. Let's sing a song while we run. Gotta keep one jump ahead of the lawmen." I never had a problem working with those people. Okay? Then you got the people like me who would show up to work on time, clock in, do their job, clock out, not cause any problems. And I love working with people like me because I'm awesome. Now the people I didn't like working with, the snitches. And Disney snitches are the worst. Their sole objective when they come to work is to pretty much just rat and snitch on everybody else. They think they're like spies. In reality, they're coming to work and they're jumping into their 1984 Honda Civic, but in their mind, they're in an Aston Martin cruising in an MI6, like they're a 00 agent and they work for British Secret Intelligence. There was one day I went into work and they put me outside of my ride and I was not in the best of moods to be all smiley. And in the corner of my eye, I see the other greeter standing there and he's just there tapping his foot. You know, he's staring at me with his hands on his hips like, oh. He thinks he's all slick. I see him go over to the phone. 2 minutes later, a manager shows up. Anyways, I got reprimanded that day and I'm like, dude, you're 38. Why are you ratting on some 16-year-old? Like, really, man, come on. But oh, don't get me started on the managers over there, okay? I can't talk for other Disney parks, but the managers at MGM in my section, oh, wow. Okay, so we had 5 managers, and they would rotate every week, and 4 out of those 5 managers hated my guts. One of them was black, and you figured the one black guy would be the one that liked me. No. The black guy hated me the most. See, you can't give some black people power. We're your best friend until you hand us that clipboard. And then as soon as we get that clipboard, all of a sudden we think in our own minds we're Lion-O, Lord of the Thundercats, and we rule over all of Third Earth and Thundera. Like, you can't give some black people that clipboard. Now, the managers didn't start off harassing me. Like, this happened about 6 months in, and everything was magical at first. Like, at orientation, that was probably the best orientation I've ever had for any of my jobs, ever. Like, they group all the new people up, they let you skip the lines, and we all go on rides together. You play team building games with your whole group, and it's like they seal the deal with free food. One thing I will say, Disney has the best employee food anywhere. It's pretty much the same thing they feed the guests, but it's like 70% off. And I can't speak for anybody else, but if you ever want me to do something, doesn't matter how crazy it is, take me out and give me free food. If that orientation lady would have sat down next, I probably shouldn't even say this on this video, but anyways, if that orientation lady would have sat down next to me and leaned over and whispered like all quiet, like, Adonde, we're glad you're having a good time. Welcome to the team, but we need you to kidnap the Prime Minister of Australia's daughter tonight. I would have looked up at her like, yo, get me on a plane now. Forget Inception, and we have to go 4 layers deep and plant a little idea of seed like a parasite. No. If you want me to do anything, bump all that. Just like take me to P.F. Chang's and buy me like $200 worth of food. Disney knows what they're doing, but they kind of brainwash their employees, and it's not a natural thing. I mean, to smile for 8 hours a day, every day, and listen to that same every single day, your eye starts to twitch. And you just start to like tick, like you get these weird little ticks. There's gonna be some side effects. Same way there's side effects with Viagra, you know, like if your excitement lasts for more than 14 days, please consult a physician. See, those kind of side effects, like they warn you about. But at Disney, they never warn you about the side effects. Disney employees, they snap. And you never see the ones that snap because it's always, when you go to lunch break, you raise your hand to clock out, and then something psychologically fires in your mind, and you just turn into a zombie and you just keep walking to the parking lot and just jump in their car and just go. You should never come back. I snapped. And you just become self-aware, you know, you want to stop working, but you just figure, So what do? I start showing up late on purpose. First it was 5 minutes, then it was 10 minutes, then I bumped it up to 30 minutes, and nobody would notice. I had to step it up a little bit. So what do I do next? I start stealing. And I didn't want to steal anything too crazy, like I didn't want to get in any serious trouble. So what do I steal? Okay? First I started stealing pencils. I'm Disney brainwashed, you know what I'm saying? So like stealing pencils is a big deal. And obviously nobody noticed. So what do I start stealing? In front of the Indiana Jones show, we have the magnetic clipboard that we post at times. Yeah, no more 8:30 shows. I stole all the 8:30 show magnets. I don't know what came over me. I was just standing there, I was like, boom, you're coming with me. Thug life, baby. Okay, get on my level. And then one night, you know, my shift is over, I'm about to go home, and then some random manager from a completely other section of the park comes up to me, he's like, hey, you, hey, kid, what's your name tag say? Adamantium, come with me. I'm walking with this guy, I'm like, what's up, man, I'm about to go home. He's like, no, you're not going home. We need you. All right, our company just rented out the parks. Hey, girl. We only rented out half the parks. So you see over there by Star Wars where there's no light and it's pitch black and there's a bunch of roaches scattering around and Lord knows what over there? We need you to stand there for about 3 hours. And I'm looking at this guy like, you're kidding, right? I gotta go home, man. I got school tomorrow. He's like, well, look, buddy, I'm sorry. Okay, we all got things to do tomorrow, but you gotta stand over there. In case any guests get lost, we need you to stand over there in the darkness, and if they walk over to you, redirect them back over to civilization where all the partying is, okay? We're gonna all be over here. You stand right over there. I'm like, okay, well, how long do I have to stand over there? Maybe a few hours. I'll come and let you know. I'm over there standing, and the longer I stand there, the more heated I get. This guy's talking to me like I'm a mutt. He's talking to me like I'm an animal? What do you think I am? Why am I the only person standing over here? I don't see anybody else. I quit. I'm done. I'm out of here. Peace. I'm walking. I'm done. That's it. I don't care what happens. I am done. I hope that guy sees me walking out. And as I'm about to get to wardrobe to clock out, I look down the street, and all I see are Disney chefs, and the entire road is full of just free Disney food. Chefs are tossing pancakes in the air in slow motion. You got chefs on the grill. Free food galore, and that comes as one of the packages. Like, you can rent out the park, and the entire park is catered. I gotta get some of this food. But it's like all rich old people around. Like, I can't blend in right now. You know, I assess the situation and I realize, okay, 1, I'm rehiring myself. 2, I gotta find out what the deal is with all this. So next day I come into work and I pull aside one of the employees that have been there for like 3 years, and I'm like, yeah, people can rent out the parks? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, crazy question, I know. So they always have free food like that? Or how does that work? Like, yeah, they always get free food. Okay. Crazy question. I mean, what if an employee, like, got caught sneaking in and trying to eat some of the free food? I know that's crazy, right? And she looked at me and she was like, termination on the spot. Okay. That's how I'm going out. I'm going out in an orchestra of bacon, sausage, and eggs. So about a month later, another group rents out the park. So now I'm just sizing everybody up. I'm like, no, still, I can't blend in with you guys. But 2 months after that, a high school rents out the entire park. And we only have 2 shows at Indiana Jones that night. So I'm telling myself, this is it. This is it. We do our 2 shows, and the instant that second show ends, I'm like, like I ninja. Like I'm hopping from rooftops on the Disney rides to get to wardrobe. I change, and now my new mission is, how do I get back wearing civilian clothing without any security seeing me? I spent too many hours playing Metal Gear Solid. Hideo Kojima, do not fail me now, okay? I'm leaning up against walls. I'm in bushes. I have the little cardboard box that I'm creeping around in. You know, in the security walk. You ain't gonna hear that. I make it back out there. I grab a plate, and it's like hamburgers, chicken, pasta. I'm eating French toast for no reason. They have seafood, steak, ribs, Pillsbury Doughboy is like doing cartwheels in the background like hee 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 hee. They have fish, they have everything. They have gummy berry juice. You know, from the cartoon, the potion that they drink, they have the real gummy berry juice there. I ate so much food. Oh my gosh. I showed them. My kids might be obese because of some of the stuff that I did that night. And then I realized, like, crap, I don't want to be the one kid that's running around by himself eating all this food, so I gotta blend in. So I look around and I find these group of kids, and I just kind of chameleon my way into their little clique. Next thing you know, me and my new BFFs, we're going on all the rides together. It was one of the best nights of my life. They never caught me. They never found out about it. Yeah, Disney, I got a confession. I quit about a few months later, so I don't work for Disney anymore. But I will say, I know it sounds bad, but working for Disney was amazing, awesome experience. And I tell you guys all of that to get to this. If you guys know anybody that looks even remotely like me, this is what I look like. If you know anybody that looks even remotely like me, that lives maybe in the LA or Orlando area and works at Disney and has an ID that's valid, that looks like me, that I can use to get back onto Disney property, yeah. Please send this video to them. As a matter of fact, if you know anybody that works at Disney, because they might know actually, you know what? Just put this up on your Facebook wall, send it out to everybody, tweet it, because somebody that you know knows somebody that works at Disney that knows somebody that looks like me, and they need to see this video. So,
Jerry took a charge for the victory! Holy shit! G'day, fellas. Welcome to Blocker.io. I know you guys love the silly.io games. I love them too. I love conquering them. I love getting on the leaderboard. Here's the thing. In this one, I've got a skin. There's a laser beam logo. You can't really see it because my name's on it, called fucking finally. You know, because I fucking finally got a skin. Shout out to my mate Quebblecop. This is one of his games, and yeah, gave me a skin. Absolute legend. Basically, I describe this game as Tetris, but it's real time. Like, it's crazy. I'm going along here collecting cubes like crazy. I'm growing my laser beam. That's what I call it. Fucking finally is already on the leaderboard. I have 33 points. The top guy has 3,650. I'm a bit behind. You know, I'm a little bit behind on this one. Yeah. But yeah, my mission is basically just to grow as much as possible. Get all the cubes attached to me. Make laser beam #1. So far, so good. We have started well. What can I say? I'm going undefeated because I have this skin. Oh, and look at that. My cube is huge now. You can actually see my shitty logo. It is pretty shit, if I'm honest. You know, if anyone wants to redesign my logo, feel free to do it on Twitter. Send it to me. But yeah, basically the goal of the game is you go around building yourself up by collecting cubes, and you kill the other cubes. It's like every .io game ever since Agario. There's millions of them. Kill this guy! I'm bigger than you! Oh no! Oh no! No, quick! I gotta grow again. We are both the same cube size. We are both the same cube size. Oh, so you gotta turn and stuff as well. It's crazy. I suck at it because I'm in Australia and it's a bit laggy. Like every game I've ever played. So I have to have a bigger cube than his. And then I blow him up. So I guess it makes it more even, I suppose. I don't know. My cube just grew. I reckon I can take him now. Or our cube's still the same size. Oh my god, it's so fucking laggy. It is so laggy, but I'm bigger than him. How can't I kill him? Murder! Ah, you sack of shit. Kill him! What is even going on? It's definitely a little bit laggy. Definitely a little bit laggy right now. That's the problem with these .io games. All the servers are in Tokyo for me. Fucking bullshit. So I finally got a skin, but there's no Australian rights here. No, there's no Australian rights. Because I'm still dealing with lag. So Quebblecop, if you're watching, mate, Australian servers, eh? How's that sound? Just keep collecting cubes. It lags out like crazy when I turn, so... Oh my god, I'm huge. Yeah, I might try and avoid turning too much. He says as he turns heaps. Okay, that down there is Yo. And Yo is #2. And he's only at 300. Can you imagine how big the 3,000 guy is? Holy shit. Ooh, I'm growing, but I'm growing. I look like a cube, but with like a face disability. Like a cube that rode the short bus to school, you know? Like, I don't have it all there, is what I'm saying. 156 points. Holy shit. That ain't nothing compared to #1, though, so... This is gonna be... Oh! Yeah, piss off, bro. Piss off. You gotta watch out for these glowy cubes, because if you hit them, you fucking explode. And there we go, I just murdered the dude. I just murdered the dude straight up, eh? Cold blood. Cold blood. Oh, it's actually... It's fun, this. I don't know, it's relaxing, because you're not dying constantly, so I actually kind of like it. Yes! Murdered that little bitch. He was tiny. Got what he deserved for being small. Oh, look at this cute little fella. Look at this cute little fella. Thinks he's got me? Thinks he's got me? Oh, I'm coming, lad. I'm coming. Oh, I'm gonna lull him into a false sense of security. Yeah, pounce! Yeah, boys. You don't fuck with laser beam. There's a reason I have a skin. I lulled him into a false sense of security and then I pounced. I'm savage. I'm just hoping that guy somehow dies. It makes it really easy for me to get to #1. Oh, there's the guy that's in #2. I see him, he's big and purple. He's big and purple, he's got some solid cubes going. I don't think I can compete with him, so I'm gonna run away like a pussy. I'm not really running, am I? What do cubes do? I'm squaring away, yeah, that'll do. Problem is, the bigger you grow, the harder it is to maneuver.